Tonight, a BC family speaks out after a shopping trip to Walmart turns violent after they say they were racially profiled.
One of the problems with this is whether the independent investigating body recognizes the history and context of the relationship between Indigenous peoples and different police forces.
Questions are being raised about police policing themselves in the wake of violent incidences across the country.
Our government expects national museums to be held to the higher standards of inclusiveness, social awareness, and respect.
And the Canadian Museum for Human Rights is under fire after staff say gay content was removed at the request of some school tours. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Questions are being raised about police policing themselves. When police in Canada are involved in a shooting, it does generate an investigation. But how effective is it? Jamie Pashagumskum looks into the independent bodies investigating police violence as systemic racism has dominated Parliament Hill press conferences lately.
There is systemic discrimination right across our country, in every part of our country, and in our institutions.
Zane Tesler is the director of the Independent Investigation Unit of Manitoba. He says investigating police who are involved in a civilian's death can be challenging.
In Manitoba, by legislation, any officer who's designated as the subject officer or the officer likely to have conducted themselves in the fashion that gave rise to the injuries or the death of an individual, they are given certain statutory rights where they cannot be compelled to participate in an interview or an investigation of that matter.
Lawyer Naomi Metallic says independent bodies are better than police investigating themselves, but they're not perfect.
One of the problems with this is whether the independent investigating body recognizes the history and context of the relationship between Indigenous peoples and different police forces, Canadian police forces, and whether these investigating bodies are really representative of Indigenous people and can bring that perspective.
Metallic says one solution is to have Indigenous people on police investigation agencies, because right now there aren't any. Northern Affairs Minister Dan Vandel says we need to do a better job independently investigating police. He called the latest videos of police violence horrendous, and they turned his stomach.
It's something that's been around for generations. I mean, our first, the government of Canada's first policy objectives when dealing with Native people in Canada was to civilize, Christianize, and then assimilate. And that's really the root of all the discrimination and the racism.
Next week, the Public Safety and National Security Committee will meet and review a request made by 4 MPs to study systemic racism in Canada's police forces. Jamie Pashagumskum, APTN National News, Ottawa.
A healing walk was held in Miramichi today for Rodney Levi. The 48-year-old Mi'kmaq man was shot by RCMP on June 12th. His family will hold a private funeral later this afternoon. People gathered to remember the father of 3, and protesters chanted justice for Rodney and time for change. Levi was the second police-involved fatality in that province in just over a week. Quebec's police watchdog is investigating the incident. And disturbing allegations in BC hospitals have led to a call for an investigation. There are reports of healthcare staff playing a racist game at the expense of mainly Indigenous patients. The province's health minister addressed the reports today.
Last night, I was made aware of serious allegations of racist and abhorrent practices in an emergency room or emergency rooms in British Columbia. If confirmed, the conduct is beyond unacceptable. The allegation is that a game was being played to guess the blood alcohol level of patients in the ER, in particular Indigenous people, and perhaps others. If true, it is intolerable, unacceptable, and racist.
Former Representative for Children and Youth Mary Ellen Turpel-Lafond will lead the investigation. There are no details about how widespread the racist game may be. As Parliament winds down for the summer, there was one last chance to press the government on the response to the MMIWG report during the Indigenous Affairs Committee. Winnipeg Centre MP Leah Gazan asked when Ottawa will release a national action plan.
We will not let these families and survivors down. We're going to get this done, and and lots of people believe that this, because of the intensity of the kind of discovery of wise practices and respect across the country.
Minister Bennett, with all due respect, that is not an acceptable response. Families, advocates, and even the commissioners have voiced their concerns over the lack of transparency.
Meanwhile, the Canadian Human Rights Museum is under fire again, this time for a CBC story that came out this week. In that story, former and current staff say the museum would honor requests by certain groups, including religious schools, to remove or shield gay content from their museum tours. The practice went on for 2 years. On Thursday, the Minister of Canadian Heritage responded to the controversy.
Our government expects national museums to be held to the higher standards of inclusiveness, social awareness, and respect. We are aware of apparent cases of self-censorship of LGBTQ realities at the Canadian Museum of Human Rights in Winnipeg and are taking this matter very seriously. Let me be clear. An institution like the CMHR should not be perceived as condoning homophobia or engage in self-censorship. Its role is to expose the realities of whose voices have been silenced, not silence them even more.
And the museum released a statement today saying, in part, we failed in our responsibility as leaders. Well, there's much more to come tonight. As we head to break, here's a look at something we're working on.
I'm Lee Wilson, and I'll be bringing you the story of the Stalatin and Sycus First Nation, who say Rio Tinto's dam in northern BC ruined their communities.
Respects, this represents the beginning of the destruction of our territory and really our way of life.
As part of a 200-day trial, they've been testifying to the Supreme Court to show the damage that has been done. They say the case sheds a light on a dark chapter of Canadian history. We'll have that story soon on APTN National News.
Here's a look at Saturday's weather forecast starting on the East Coast. 32 and showers for Halifax and Fredericton. 18 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. 8 is the high for Cartwright. 34 under sunny skies in Montreal. 32 in Saguenay. 30 in Toronto. Showers, and 33 for Ottawa. 22 in Thunder Bay and Sioux Lookout. Showers, and 20 in Wawa. 9 in Churchill. 12 for Puckatawagan. 23 and rain in Winnipeg and Gimli. 21 and showers in Brandon. Sunny and 20 for Regina and North Battleford. 18 in Meadow Lake. 22 in Stony Rapids. Welcome back. Now that story of a woman missing since 2007 and the family's search for their long-lost sister. Here's Lindsay Richardson.
What if you've seen her around?
They never stopped searching.
Do you know her? No, that's my sister. Really? Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. 13 years and no word of Laura Lee May Francis until now.
Laura Lee, we're out here looking for you in Montreal. We got a tip that you're here.
Laura Lee, a member of the Dene-Za Nation, left home in Grande Prairie, Alberta, just before Christmas in 2007. It quickly became a cold case until 2 weeks ago when the family received an unexpected tip, a Facebook message from a stranger. In 2015, when I was in Montreal, I met a girl from Alberta. Her last name was Francis.
If you have any information about the disappearance of Laura Lee May Francis, visit our website.
It was only while watching an episode of APTN's show Taken 3 years later that the stranger realized he likely met Laura Lee. So the family picked up and flew to Montreal to collect new leads.
As soon as we got here Sunday night, we We got another tip saying that they recognize her from the missing poster, saying that they recognize her and she was just here.
Lance, brother Lane, and cousin River searched around Cabot Square, where Lauralee had been spotted, and handed out flyers to anyone who'd take them.
There's no help. I asked officers on the street here, they weren't even wanting to take the picture. They just looked at it and walked by. How are they going to find their sister with that help?
They say Montreal's patrol cops are dismissive, and the RCMP in charge of Lauralee's case since 2007 just as difficult.
We were talking to them before we came here, and every day we've been phoning and there's no help.
The family says sightings reported in Montreal never reached the RCMP. After 5 full days here, an investigator finally agreed to meet, but could only promise they'd do their best. The RCMP did not return APTN's request for comment by deadline.
I got this tattoo for the sisters that went missing across our country, and including my sister.
Lane is visibly marked by the loss of his older sister, but is still hopeful.
But my sister's not missing, we're going to find her.
He says Lauralee's disappearance divided the family.
My mother drank herself to death because she didn't know where her daughter was for all these years.
Knowing she may be alive and listening, Lance issues this heartfelt appeal.
And we want to ask you a whole bunch of questions so we could understand why you've been gone this long. Love you.
They've now returned home to Alberta to wait, hoping one day a long-lost sister will join them. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Montreal.
Now to a high school in Saskatchewan that wasn't going to let a pandemic ruin their graduation. Since students couldn't go to school to get their diplomas, the principal and teachers went to each student's front door. APTN's Priscilla Wolf has that story.
18-year-old Jade DeRoche from Lac La Ronge Indian Band is a grade 12 student at Churchill High School in La Ronge, Saskatchewan. She was disappointed that the grad dress she bought in February was going to go to waste.
I knew I didn't have high hopes because of the situation going on, and I was kind of regretting buying a grad dress because I didn't think I was going to get to use it.
But thanks to her principal and teachers, she wore it today on a makeshift stage that the school drove to her home.
And basically they drive this trailer with a stage on it and a podium. It says 2020 and it's decorated very nicely. Some of my teachers spent their time doing that, so it was pretty cool. And then they just drive the trailer to the students' houses.
Each high school graduate, 56 in total, had a chance to take to the stage to receive their diploma. Jade graduated with an average of 95.6 and was a class valedictorian. She's happy to have accomplished high school, but is disappointed that for the last few months she couldn't see her friends and her teachers in person.
I'm glad I'm finishing, but it's sort of bittersweet because I didn't get the last few months with all my teachers and friends, and didn't get like senior skip day, and it's different, but it doesn't take away any of our successes.
She's attending university this fall, but she'll still be at home.
I'm enrolled in the U of S and I have classes picked out already, and it's all going to be remotely delivered, at least for the first semester.
Jade says she can't wait until it's safe to go into class, but is looking forward to university and helping others.
My plan is to study medicine and become a doctor, and then possibly come back to my community and help out because there's like shortage here.
Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, La Ronge.
Colonial symbols continue to get a makeover. The Newfoundland and Labrador government changed the name of a holiday. June 24th, there used to be Discovery Day. Now it's just June Holiday. While in Prince Edward Island, John A. Macdonald was covered in red paint. The statue is downtown Charlottetown tourist attraction. People often sit on the bench next to Canada's first Prime Minister for a photo op. The debate to remove the statue completely has heated up due to Indigenous rights and Black Lives Matter movements. June Holiday. Hope they didn't hold a contest for that one. Time for another quick break, but stick around. There's more to come. Here's a look at the rest of your Saturday weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. 28 under sunny skies for high level, 23 in Fort McMurray. Sunny and 25 for Medicine Hat, showers and 23 in Lethbridge. 21 with showers for Vancouver and Campbell River. Rain and 26 in Fort Nelson, showers and 18 in Smithers. 12 with rain for Old Crow, showers and 18 in Whitehorse. Showers and 30 for Fort Liard and Trout Lake, 32 in Wrigley. +4 with rain in Sax Harbor, 6 above in Pawatuck. 17 for Baker Lake, 19 in Whale Cove. 3 with a chance of snow in Resolute. Welcome back. An Indigenous family in BC claimed that on Mother's Day in 2019 they were racially profiled, accused of assault, and then beaten by Vancouver police outside of a Walmart. APTN's Tina House has this exclusive story and a warning that viewers may find the content disturbing.
Guy's hitting him! He's not resisting at all!
This graphic video shows 41-year-old Shane Robertson outside of a Walmart being arrested by 3 Vancouver police. And then another officer jumps onto Shane and starts kicking him in the ribs.
Effie, please, just come out. Effie, calm down.
And just steps away, police are seen trying to handcuff elder Margaret Deneau as she was in her vehicle in the disabled parking spot. Margaret works for Vancouver Coastal Health with mentally ill and addicted people. She is deeply troubled by the actions of the police and the security guard.
As a health professional, I was very shocked, and in my mind it was going through, I can't be arrested, I'll lose my job, I can't lose my grandson to the ministry. And they just proceeded to not ask questions but cuff you and harass you right away.
She says it was supposed to be a nice Mother's Day that day on Sunday, May the 12th, 2019, when she took her niece, son Shane, who has a traumatic brain injury, and her 7-year-old autistic grandson to Walmart to buy a patio set and some food for a barbecue that evening, when they began being followed as soon as they entered the store.
My son had noticed, and he told me on the way out, that the guy was following him all over Walmart, and proceeding with the cart, my son had the cart in front of me, and the security guard grabbed the cart at the same time going out the door, and my son said, "We paid for everything," and the guy shouldered my son, and my son shouldered him back, and immediately he called on his cell to call the police.
The security guard says Shane assaulted him, but his mother says he shouldered her son first. And once police arrived on the scene, they tackled her son to the ground without saying anything to him. Margaret says the security guard who called police can be seen on video filming the beating of Shane. Shane was taken to jail that night and was let out after a few hours with no charges, after the officer, who's seen in the video kicking him in the ribs, recognized him because he often stopped Shane for random street checks. Police made Shane sign an agreement that he is banned for life from Walmart for simply going shopping with his family on Mother's Day.
Watching that guy that just passed away, that the cops, yeah, like it's kind of like similar to that. Like that's what like kind of like triggered it. Like, you know what I mean? Because they don't really care. Like if you say you can't breathe, right? But whatever, it is what it is, right?
Could you breathe at the time?
No, man, no.
Because they're on top of you.
Yeah, and yeah.
I would like to see them having their own respectful ways being present, hopefully, and that we're not mistreated by a system where there's no control unless incidents happen, and I don't want to see any more incidents. I want my grandchildren to grow up feeling that they're safe, that we have constant voice as anyone else.
It just shows, like, I don't know, racial profiling, I guess, right? Like, it's everywhere.
Walmart Canada say they are investigating this incident. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Vancouver police have now emailed a statement to us saying the son in this story was being confrontational and refused to put his hands behind his back. They say he spat on a Walmart security guard. We'll have more on the police response on the news next week. Switching gears now to some space news. Aerospace giant Lockheed Martin has released video of its most recent test of the spacecraft Orion. What you're seeing there is a separation test of Orion's fairings. They protect the module as it launches and as it ascends. If you're wondering how the walls are blown off, it's a combination of explosive powder-laced zippers and pyrotechnic bolts. Orion will be used to send astronauts to deep space on NASA's launch system. Well, Sunday is National Indigenous Peoples Day, and here on APTN we have a special concert series to mark the occasion. Beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern, Mountain and Pacific, viewers can tune in to hear various Indigenous artists perform from across the country. The concert will also be streamed on various radio stations across Canada. Chris Dirksen is one of the artists set to perform. The cellist and composer from Northern Alberta shared what viewers can expect to hear from her on Sunday.
I call that like electro cello, Indigenous electro cello. But because it's a classical instrument, it definitely has a classical feel, but I also use drum machines and a lot of effect pedals to urbanize the cello and bring it to a relatable level.
Looked like Chris was playing the cello in Orion there in some of that video. Well, that is your APTN National News for this Friday. For news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend and a fantastic National Indigenous Peoples Day.